Welcome! I hope you're ready for a quick descent into madness from cutting hours of watching netting and literally nothing else. First thing to note is the monumental amount of effort that actually went into this. The raw number of reward pulls is a grand 8,000, which is literally the maximum you can stack before being forced to pull. With a little bit more context, it also represents almost 1,000 kill count on Tempoross. I was definitely not as keyed in as I could have been during the entire grind, but I was, in fact, reading during most of it, so I'll take that loss of efficiency. Now, just a fun little factoid here is that pulling from the little pile of debris at the dock is 10 experience per, and the full reward for all of this is 80,000 fishing experience in addition to all of the other rewards that you get.
Hey, big harpoon fish!
Now, you get some cool stuff. And, quite frankly, that's really fun. It's fun getting the collection logs. It's fun getting resources that basically represent more food than you will ever consume in the course of the game. At the point that I started pulling from the reward pool, the only fish I was getting were manta ray, sea turtles, sharks, the big healing fish. And I also was incredibly lucky and had a bunch of friends sitting through this with me while I streamed the entire process of pulling, and they had a little bit of a fashion show while I did it, which was oh so nice. It definitely took the edge off.
I look so fashionable. Look at that.
Badass.
Those frog slippers.
Yes. they
Yes.
are.
Oh my god.
So now I'm going to change focus a little bit because I know most of the people who see this aren't going to have any connection to RuneScape. So Tempoross tutorial, because that's going to add a little context. So first things first, you unlock it at 35, and I recommend 50 plus before you actually start going for it to mitigate the randomness. Now, base version of the setup is 7 buckets, a rope, and a hammer. You can upgrade this by getting Spirit Angler, rewards from Tempoross, and you get an equipable hammer from Ruins of Cambozel. Now, there's also one minor note. You can replace a bucket with an Admiral Pie, which is a fishing boost, on par with the Dragon Harpoon. It's just fine. It's fine. It mitigates randomness, but is also consumable. So now that we're actually in a Tempe run, the first down is the one that matters. After which, you get to be a lobotomite. So, get 8 fish from any of the fishing spots, then cook them on the rocks and sand. You'll finish cooking these 8 right about the time a double fishing spot shows up, which gives a 50% chance to get an additional fish whenever you would get one, and it very specifically does not allow any boosts to the rate of hitting fish. So 50% is the biggest boost you're going to get. At this point, you're going to get a wave. Just avoid the wave at this point by connecting your rope or Spirit Angler to the totem, and go back to charring your fish on the relic site. Now, you want to leave exactly 2 inventory slots uncooked with the setup that I showed you. This is because it gets Tempoross down below 10%, so it stops attacking, and it means that you can permanently, for the rest of the encounter, stick every single fish directly into those flimsy little baskets that are immune to fire, despite the fact that they are flimsy, thin, and very flammable. Now, after you've dumped all but 2 inventory slots of fish into the caskets, go and put out the fires that are currently turning the sand into glass. And if you're lucky, you even have enough time to make use of the double spot that spawned. This is, unfortunately, where it gets a lot less interesting, because you have just set up to never have to think for the rest of the Tempoross kill. Now, the only thing you need to worry on this down, the first down, is make sure that you're depositing your charred lumps of black coal into the basket at 92% or earlier. If you do it later, you won't successfully put your fish in the cannon and Tempoross won't go down. Now, this is, quite frankly, not complicated from this point. It's just filling up your inventory, carbonizing your fish, dumping the liquefied ashes into the cannon, and attacking Tempoross, the giant sea spirit, when it goes down. So, since the rest of the Tempoross kill is not going to be particularly interesting, let's talk lore for a second. Because Tempoross is a spirit of the sea as old as the planet itself, currently making the life of sailors west of the desert absolute pain, and is very much an analog for just the wrath of the sea. Now, strictly speaking, we're not even attacking Tempoross when we're doing damage to Tempoross. We're not actually attacking Tempoross. We're attacking mystical fish and taking their scales, and this calms Tempoross down somehow. Or at the very least is weakening it, or something along that line. So, while we're currently liquefying fish to feed into a cannon and launch directly into the spirit of the sea's face, which isn't even technically its face, let's hear from real-time me! You can never go wrong with cabbage.
Nope.
Unless you care about having gas.
That was literally my first unit.
Yeah, that makes sense. The madness did set in pretty quickly in the Tempoross poll. It's actually kind of funny because there's a little bit of trivia. Hardcore Iron Men, which is Iron Men that, if they die, lose that status, do lose their status if they die in this boss, which it is an actual boss. That's what it's categorized in the collection log. If you die in this minigame as a hardcore Iron Man, you lose your hardcore status. Now, there's no way to take damage in Tempoross natively, so you have to kill yourself to lose that status. Either through poison, or something that can do damage to you even when you're at 1 HP. You can also feed the harpoon fish to kittens, which is genuinely impressive. You can miss the boat on the way to here by just interface stalling, being in an interface that prevents you from taking the boat. Tempoross also has 8 combat achievements. 2 of them are just kill count, and the rest of them are somewhat interesting. The first one is just repairing the totem pole or mast that you use to protect yourself from the wave. Second is loading all 4 of the incredibly thin and flammable baskets with the harpoon fish, which is probably the hardest one, The third is extinguishing 5 fires that are currently setting the entire beach ablaze, choking the skies with ash. Fourth is doing this perfectly. Fifth is just wearing the angler outfit. With Tempoross going down for good, let's get back to the loot pile, which has been slowly stacking and rewards us with a fresh and brand new Tome of Water. Speaking of the fun loot, let's actually take a look at the loot from the Angry Sea Spirit. Since you can start Tempe at 35 fishing, the loot reflects that. And as you level your fishing, it chops off the weakest fish and adds in the new one. For example, the fish loot at 35 includes herring, mackerel, pike, salmon, and tuna. Going to 41, the herring is disintegrated, and lobsters take those ashes and appear. This process goes until 81 fishing, where the best fish have finished consuming the remains of all the weaker fish, giving you access to bass, swordfish, sharks, turtles, and manta ray. Since this entire loot run was done at 98 fishing, that means I got an absolutely bonkers amount of healing. All those top tier fish. I also got a lot of lower tier resources for other skills, namely construction and fletching. Sure, there's seaweed and bait for crafting and more fishing respectively, but the secondary resource table stars are really the feathers, nails, and flanks. And you do get a lot of them. Like, more than you will use. Now, let's take a look at the uniques table, which actually has a lot of really cool stuff, like the Tome of Water I just got. The Spirit Flakes are used to get a small boost to catching fish, a 5% chance to catch an additional fish when you would normally have only caught one, without the experience of catching that additional fish, as well as upgrading the standard anglers that you get from Fishing Trawler or Lake Mulk if you're insane, into Spirit Angler that replaces the rope that we use to hang her on here. Soaked pages are used as fuel for the Tome of Water, which is used to boost your water spell damage and accuracy on the standard spellbook by 10%, which is decently useful now that the combat rework makes it so that your spells just use the highest damage from the tier of spell you're using, as well as the elemental weaknesses. Now, the tackle box is useless, and I refuse to talk about it outside of the fact that I got 6 rolls for it before I got the fish barrel, which is actually useful. It's useful because it holds an entire additional inventory of fish, but is only unloadable at a bank. Now, both the tackle box and the fish barrel, you can only have one at a time, and any time you would roll to get a duplicate, what happens instead is you get 25 soggy wet pages for that Tome of Water instead, which is how I know I got those 6 rolls for the tackle box before I got the fish barrel. There's also 2 super rare drops on this table. The pet, which is purely cosmetic and has some unique dialogue if you interact with it, and the dragon harpoon, which acts as an equipable harpoon, which is what you're supposed to use if you haven't done barbarian fishing. Forgot to mention that during the Tempoross tutorial. As well as having a special attack that boosts your fishing level by a small margin. Then, there's my favorite loot from the uniques table, though it's primarily because of the bulk. It's the casket, which is also a unique casket, despite sharing a visual and a name with other caskets in the game.
Oh, please tell me that doesn't interrupt you, actually.
It does not. I don't.
On your screen,
It makes me stand up. That's another dupe of the tackle box. It makes me stand up, but the pull keeps continuing.
Oh my god! It's
I-
boy!
That's the Brudu shield, but I don't know the rest. Briopha's staff, maybe? The casket gives you access to full rune armor if you're lucky, an obscene range of jewelry for enchanting, going from sapphire to diamond, excluding the crumbly gems, so no opals, jades, or red topaz jewelry. It gives an absolutely massive pile of gems, This time, it's everything up to Dragonstone, including those opals, jades, and red topaz, in addition to gold and silver. So, an absolutely insane amount of just crafting experience represented in these caskets. Now, the caskets do have a sad and disappointing table, which is just money and crystal key pieces, which are easy to get elsewhere. So, I'm super jazzed about the clues from this, by the way, because I completed almost all of the ones that I got over the course of a week after I finished pulling. And I got about 30 hard caskets, 40 mediums, and 50 easies. I don't remember the exact numbers, and I've gotten more caskets since then, which makes it hard to go back and check. Now, I'm actually working on stacking each clue casket up through Elite to 100, so that I can open all of them in a single stream in the future. Plus, if I get particularly ambitious, I'm going to get my stats high enough that I can do most, if not all, the master clue steps as well, so that I can actually get those caskets, even doing a little bit of zombie dragon cooking. It's fine, he's dead, he can't feel it. While we do a little bit of camping out on this beach, I've got to admit, I took a fair amount of time trying to figure out where to put this next bit. Considering that it's just poetry, it was fun to write, and I considered excluding it from the video, but there's a lot of dead time in this, and I don't know how to fill that up otherwise, and I don't have the skills necessary to combo it with appropriate visuals, so I'm putting it after this next really cool loot bowl. Seriously, it's awesome. Wait, I got the pet! I got the pet!
Oh, shit. You shouldn't have said anything.
I told you he was gonna get it. I told you.
There it is. Let's fucking go, brother.
Harpoon for green log, but it doesn't even matter at this point. I got everything that matters.
You can get that wherever.
Yeah, the harpoon shows up in other places. This was the only place to get the pet. Spending hours on the shore, enjoying the sea breeze, fishing in leisure while the horizon darkens. Leading to the growing sense of unease, you climb the ship once more as it embarkens. A sea spirit of growing familiarity, potentially from the days of yore. Gritting your teeth in the growing storms, embracing tenacity. Dealing with the creature potentially once more. Taking the bounty of the sea and weaponizing it to the point of irony, taking moments to avoid the wrath in the lee, forcing the immense power of nature to take a knee. We sailed to the shore, walking the rickety dock once more, taking the moment to rest until the inevitable call once more to quest. I will readily admit that, quite frankly, I had a lot of fun with this next animation because I got to frame my friends, and then I got to make everything go away in a fish. It's a bad fish, but it's my fish, and you will enjoy the fish. So let's take a moment to just kind of enjoy what's going on here, because it's not actually a lot going on, but it's close to the high-octane bit of casting your net into the ocean and just letting it go. And getting the fish barrel way, way later than it ever should have taken. Now, I lost the actual context for this audio clip, but it's great.
Okay. This is the shitty one from
Here, Cole.
that's Seer Call.
It's the budget twisted bow, okay?
It's the your
It's
child drew a twisted bow at school day.
Holy crap! I greenlocked! Wait a minute. Wait a freaking minute. Where is it? Yeah! Oh my gosh. I definitely lost track of just how much I was getting while I was doing this. Just like this. Oh my god, that's another dragon harpoon.
Yep. Hey, I called it 2 dragons.
No, that's not a mistake. I didn't even get a live reaction to that third dragon harpoon. And now, for the loot, it is a grand total of 29 mil without cracking the caskets, which I didn't do on stream. I did it way later. So yeah, look forward to what I've got in the future. I'm currently working on a Snowflake Iron Man series where I'm not picking up anything off the floor, and feel free to watch me do stuff on Twitch. It's there.